Yes, yes, your ears do not deceive you. We are all the way back. Um, I can't really. It's like Ghost in the Machine type shit. I took my computer to a computer place for this specific kind of computer, and but when I first brought it in, the problem was is that it wouldn't turn on. It wouldn't. I had unplugged it at the onset of a storm the other night. Thought that I got it shut down and unplugged before anything happened, and I'm now feel fairly certain that's actually the case. Um, anyway, left the house for the evening, played some music, came back home late, plugged it back in. After leaving it unplugged all night, wouldn't turn on. Fairly terrifying. Only computer that I own doesn't suck. One of the few things that I own that is actually worth a little bit of something. Whatever, not a big deal. Point being is it is a big deal. It was a big deal as far as like anything that I wanted to accomplish. And so anyway, enough of my woes. But the point is that for whatever reason, even though okay, so I'm sorry, I'm not 100% done. So I took it to the store. They do repairs there, like I said, and so we just took it out of the box and they used their power cord and tried to turn it on. And you would have thought that like if it was going to be one of those silly ghost in the machine kind of things where like you can't get it to turn on, but as soon as somebody else does, it works, kind of deals, then that's when it would have happened, right? But no, we used one of their power cords. He pressed the power button and not a damn thing happened. So I was like, wow, this doesn't look good. 2 days pass. Not from the original incident, but from the taking into the repair place, and or 2.5 days, whatever. And here we are, and now it just works fine again, and I am very very glad. So that's why the sound quality has come back up. We are no longer in unplugged mode. The crickets aren't as loud because I'm indoors. I am sorry. For those of you who like them, for those of you who dislike them, this is better for you. And for those of you who are indifferent to the background sounds, then well, at least the quality is back up. Wow. That's like what, 3 minutes probably? I don't know for sure of talking before I say a single thing about what the fuck we're even doing here. Welcome. Hi. Hello. This is a thing that I do, that we collectively do, even with a little back and forths and such, called Harry Potter Abridged. This this book that we are currently in is entitled Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and we are now proceeding to chapter 12, which is entitled The Polyjuice Potion. And this is I noticed when I was creating this session that this is episode 29. So next episode will be episode 30, which isn't really, it's just it's a multiple of 10 that's not 10 or 20. The 20 was an achievement too, I guess. I don't know. It just for whatever reason, it was like, oh wow, we're coming up on our 30th episode. Still in book 2, of course. In the thick of things, even. But hooray! Maybe, I don't know. I'm not really promising anything other than that I'll try to make that 30th episode happen sooner than later. About what will be in it, probably the same thing that's in all the other ones. But who knows? anything's possible. Right, and so this is I said what all those things were. It's the Polyjuice potion. I said that too, right? Yes, that's the name of the chapter. It's chapter 12. And as you will know if you've been listening in order, Harry just got taken by Professor McGonagall to Dumbledore's office. They were almost there as the chapter ended on us, and so we pick up directly after. And so they and it says right here at the beginning of the chapter, so the thing I was speculating about in the previous chapter, it's clarified here. They stepped off the stone staircase at the top, which makes me think that it just kind of keeps moving once you've... I guess it would probably stop after you've stepped off or something, but it's not one of those, like, you're still standing on the last step and it's just frozen in place because it knows you're at the top. You actually step off. Right, so there's that. And so McGonagall knocks on the door. It opens of its own accord. Let's see here. And so McGonagall asks Harry to wait, and then she leaves him in the main office alone. So I guess he has like a... I don't know, maybe chambers or like a different study outside of his actual office. Anyway, so she heads off, and Harry's looking around, and it's like one of those things where he's like, this is like the most interesting office I've ever been in. Even though I'm like, terrified about like the fact that I might be suspected in these attacks and maybe being expelled and, things of that nature. He's like, wow, this is really cool. And so we get like our first description of like which again, this is just like the staircase is repeated or mentioned, I should say, repeatedly. The description of the spindle-legged tables and the silver instruments that are quite curious, and there are a number of them. And also the description of the portraits of the previous headmasters and headmistresses of Hogwarts, which, as we learn through various online things from Rowling, each of those portraits is taught by the headmaster or headmistress that it's a painting of all of its like secrets and information and sort of how to act and be just like the actual person, which is, obviously it would make sense as far as relaying certain information, but it's like it seems like all instances of people seem to behave the same. So what if you like train one version of your portrait, the other ones learn from it? Magic is weird. Don't get me wrong, I love it. It's just, and it's funny, I was watching, if I'm not mistaken, rewatching, but sometimes when you don't see something for a really long time and you've only seen it once, it's like watching it over again. Anyway, the interview between Daniel Radcliffe and J.K. Rowling, and in that, she was talking about the only after she kind of like, she had a lot of creative control in the first couple of movies, and then sort of like still could have, and they still came to her about things, but like once she sort of felt like they had like the look and feel and everything down, that she kind of didn't like stick around the set as much as she did first. But wait a minute, there was a reason for that. Oh, but she was saying that like the only other times that she would object is like if she saw something in the script that like didn't fit within the, as she said, logic that underpins the world. And there is a fair amount of logic, but there is also like some like mild manipulation of said logic. I mean, sometimes if you think about the stuff like abstractly enough, you're like, well, no, there's a solution for this, but some things are and definitely convenient in the name of fiction and stuff. But whatever. Right. So, tangents. Right. So the portraits, and then and then there is. Anyway, there's more tables and desks and things and stuffs, and on a shelf, Harry sees the sorting hat, and the sorting hat. Right, and so Harry's like, I've been thinking about you, Mr. Hat, and and I need to holla at you right quick. So he looks around, and like the former headmasters and headmistresses are asleep, or as we know to be normally the case, feigning sleep, which means they're just totally listening to see what Harry's doing. So he pulls down the hat and puts it on. It's still too big for him, so it goes over his eyes and everything, and so he waits for a second, and then the hat speaks to him and asks him if he's got a bee in his bonnet, which is, I don't think, a phrase that we really use in America, but you get the point. It's one of those phrases that you don't really need somebody to explain it to understand it. So anyway, and Harry's like, yeah, see, and he's like, yeah, so what you were wondering was, he's like, why did you ask me if you already fucking knew? He doesn't say that, but that's gotta be what he's thinking, sort of. And he's like, yeah, you wanted to know which house I put you in. Well, I mean, if I put you in the right house, I mean, that's how he corrected himself. And he's like, yeah, I stand by what I said before. And we get that description of Harry's heart leapt. And then he's like, you would have done well in Slytherin. And now, instead of his heart, it's his stomach plummeting. Yeah. So he's like, yeah. Instead of questioning the hat further, he just pulls it off real quickly and puts it back. And then he tells it, you're wrong. Because he's like, damn it, you didn't do, that's not what you did. You put me in Griffin. Damn it. Why you had to say that? Looking for some support around this motherfucker. Dun, 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 dun. And then he hears a sound, and he turns around and he's like, oh shit, I'm not in this room alone. But it's a bird, and the bird is looking it's looking decrepit. It's looking like old and about to. That's what happened. It catches fire, and Harry's like, whoa, what the holy shit. He's like, I'm just waiting in your office, and your bird catches on fire. I was just walking in a hallway, and I tripped over a body, and it happened to be the person that everybody thought I was going to attack. What the fuck? I put on the sorting hat. The sorting hat says, oh, you would have been great in Slytherin. Fuck everybody right now, That's that's what's going on. Subtext. Hashtag subtext. Anyway, what really happens is that Harry yells in shock and backs away into the desk. He's like, he is, pretty much like, holy shit. I mean, everything I just said was accurate. It's canon. So yeah, the bird is a fireball, which had to be a bit much to see. Already on a strained mind, as our young Harry has of late. Ever since they took me on that train. Let's see. And of course, right then, as the fire burns out and there's a pile of ash on the floor, the office door. Oh, it's the office door. But I thought this was his off. I don't understand that. Maybe I'm thinking of it backwards. So Dumbledore comes in and he's looking all somber and Harry's like, "Hey, yo, man, lots of bad luck, but in particular, your bird, fire. I no water, nothing do can I." And instead of being scolded, Dumbledore breaks into a smile from his somber look, and he's like, "Oh, it was about time." So basically, we find out about Fawkes, and that Fawkes is a phoenix, and that he is in fact reborn from the ashes. Fawkes is a really, I'm saying it like it's, I get that I'm not pronouncing it greatly. That's another word. It is, right, but that wasn't correct. I'm fairly certain. Anyway, but like the whole thing with Harry and Fawkes and also with Voldemort, like it's so like I didn't really even think about it, but well, it happens later in this book, but spoiler alert, Fawkes plays a role in this in the most pivotal scene in this novel, and it's not the last time, and I wonder about Fawkes because well, when other events come to pass considerably later in the series, Fawkes goes somewhere, but we don't really know where. Anyway, that's as far as I want to go with that right now. That's just a little too far ahead. Anyway, so Dumbledore lets Harry know that it's a burning day, meaning that that's when it's like it has a cycle, however long the cycle is, where it goes from like an infancy through adulthood, and I don't really know how advanced the adulthood is. I don't know if it's like a, like 30-40 year kind of thing, if it does it like every 3 months. I don't that and there might be like some common known fantasy mythology that tells me that I just don't know because I didn't grow up reading it, so I hadn't read a lot of fantasy, so I don't really know if there's like some established Phoenix rules. Yeah. As always, you can let me know if you know, because I didn't Google that. Let's see. Remember to stay hydrated. And so Harry sees Fawkes being a little newborn baby bird, poking its head out of the ashes. Right. Oh, and of course, Dumbledore most conveniently lists some of Fawkes's properties. He says, he's normally quite beautiful. It tells him that it's got red and gold plumage, which are the colors of Gryffindor. He says that they can carry immensely heavy loads. Boom! Spoiler alert. Foreshadowing. Their tears have healing powers. Boom! Spoiler alert. Foreshadowing. And they make highly italicized, faithful pets. Boom! Even though it's not Harry's pet, but you get the point. Faithful, dedicate. You'll see. And so after all of that kerfuffle. Harry's like almost forgotten what the fuck he was even in the office for before, and also, is there like a side door that like that I said say Hermione that Professor McGonagall like slid out without having to come back through the main office? Like, I mean, I guess the answer to that must be yes, but it's just sort of interesting that she went back to get Dumbledore and then like, I mean, because you can't disapparate, and I don't. Well, maybe it seems insane that they would do this, but maybe she was using a fire and Dumbledore studied into the fire in her office. I guess that's possible too. But it also seems just as possible that Dumbledore would have, like, not just Dumbledore, but the headmaster or headmistress office would have maybe a back way out into a different part of the school or some shit like that, so that it's not just the one way in and out. But it's never mentioned, and there are points in time where like things have to be secure and stuff, and who knows. There is a point way later in the books where we hear secondhand that like some students broke into the headmaster's office. What if they didn't use the gargoyle entrance? Maybe they found the back entrance or something. Maybe it was on a map. Anyway, well, we're tangenting heavily this evening. Because this is really not the important part of this whole thing. Anyway, so Harry, like, as Dumbledore goes to sit down at his desk, and Harry sits down in the chair, but in front of it, like, it starts to come back to him, like, oh yeah, right, Justin Finch Fletchley, good lord, Finch Fletchley, and Nearly Headless Nick, and the attack, and the fact that I was there, and McGonagall found me, and et cetera, et cetera. And so, anyway, so and so they sit down, and Dumbledore hits him with the blue-eyed stare, also repeated many times, but for a reason, and that's because it's a penetrating light blue stare. That's right. Right. So before Dumbledore can get anything out, though, the door bangs open, and Hagrid, who Harry had just run into literally a little, like, just a moment or two before he tripped over Justin and threw Nick, he had just seen. So Hagrid's like, it wasn't Harry. That's what he said. It couldn't have been. Stuff like that. And he, like, Dumbledore, like, can't get a word in. Like, he's just like, I just seen him, and we were talking, and it couldn't have been. He didn't have time, and all of these things happen. And eventually Dumbledore's like, Hagrid, yo, hey. Yo, I don't think Harry did it. It's cool, Hagrid. And Hagrid's like, right, I'll step back out then. And so that happens, and so we have our comic relief, and also our setup for the actual conversation, and Harry's like, oh, so you don't think that I did it? And he's like, no, but I still want to talk to you for a minute. And he's like, great, well, which, he says, I still want to talk to you. He asks one question, which, granted, could have been given a different answer, and therefore a conversation could have ensued, but as it is, that is not how things went down. He's like, so I just wanted to know, basically, if there's anything you'd like to tell me. Anything. And Harry thinks of like 10 things or something. Hearing the voice, hearing what everybody was saying about him being the heir of Slytherin. Okay, I don't know. There were more things, right? Maybe not. Oh, and the voice. Well, hearing the voice. I said that right. Yeah. Okay, so he thinks of a few things, and he's like, "Nah, I'm good. all ship shape over here. You know I'm lying, but hey, I'm a little too young to realize it. Cool. Um, and so that's the end of that scene. So Harry kind of gets off easy, but being that Dumbledore's like keeping stuff from him for like at least 2 or 3 years too long, so it's like, you know. So anyway, yeah. So the attack. Once the word gets out about the attack on Justin and nearly headless Nick, which of course, because all these students witnessed the aftermath of it, of course, it didn't take but like half a second for it to cover the whole school. It's fast enough anyway when like one or two people start the rumor, but when like half the school sees it in the first fucking place, like it's yeah. Anyway, so things went from like a bit nervous to like legit panic. People are kind of freaking the fuck out. And it's nearly headless Nick's fate the fact that he was like damaged or like burned or whatever, even though he's already dead. Like that seems to it enhances the idea that it's not. That maybe it's a monster and not just a human like jinxing people or doing like they're being petrified by something. And it's interesting that somehow I just thought about this really that they somehow managed to, and by they of course I mean Rowling, somehow manages to never have anybody character wise like talk about like what things, like nobody ever says, I wonder what could petrify some. Like, what are the things that could petrify somebody? Like no, like Hermione. That's like I mean, whatever. I'm nitpicking, but of course that's what I mean. We're breaking it down. Uh, but Hermione never goes, oh, I must dash off to the library and see what things cause things to be petrified. Like what kind of animals or monsters or creatures or plants or whatever, what petrifies people. That doesn't it's not until, because the solution to this problem comes through a different channel of thought, in other words, not that one. I mean, maybe that's like a broad, but Hermione's really good. Like Hermione uses the library like I feel like I like to use Google, like she knows how to search. I mean, sometimes it's like just go through as many books as you can, but often she seems to achieve her results in a fairly timely manner, except for when the plot requires that they have to take longer or Hermione goes off on holiday or whatever. Dun, 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 dun. Right, so with all of that panic, damn near everybody clears out for the Christmas holidays. But curiously, and with no real reason, I don't think, ever given, Malfoy and then as a result, Crabbe and Goyle all stay at Hogwarts for Christmas. And I mean, and it's just downright peculiar because, I mean, even though we know that the Malfoy, or we're yeah, okay, fine. We know that the Malfoys aren't scared of being, because of their pureblood status and because of other reasons. They're not worried about whatever. They're not worried about him getting attacked, their son, Draco. But it still seems like why wouldn't he go home for Christmas? Like he used to always or has been known to like out loud subtweet Harry by saying stuff like, I always feel sorry for the people who can't go home for the holidays. Whatever. It's probably in here and I've just forgotten about it or something. But anyway, most people leave though, because I mean obviously the attacks have most normal fucking people nervous as hell, and the parents especially. So, anyway, and of course the Weasleys stay with Harry, because that's how they are. They're good like that. Basically, Harry is an honorary Weasley. That's all there is to that. So, and of course, Harry's like looking forward to this whole like everybody being gone thing because he's really, as one might imagine, sick and tired of the bullshit, basically, of all people like, getting out of his way and like muttering when they pass by him and all that shit. I mean, he does go through a lot of that in his tenure at Hogwarts, but anyway, and so Fred and George, always being the sort of the dark comedians, they're like, instead of like getting angry on behalf of Harry, they like make fun. They basically do like live satire of everybody who's giving Harry shit or suspecting him, and they're like, "Make way for the heir of Slytherin! Seriously evil wizard coming through," which I think is pretty hilarious. And Harry actually doesn't mind at all, because at least he feels like these people believe him, and don't, or believe in him, whatever, and don't think that he's the heir of Slytherin and think that's ridiculous. So it gives him heart. And that's one thing. I mean, Fred and George, like, they can totally pick on people who are being like pompous or like, stupid or whatever. But like when it comes down to it, they're loyal to their people, and that definitely includes Harry, even at this point. And Percy's like gets pissed about it, of course, and but they just keep going. They're like, out of the way. Harry's in a hurry. He's nipping off to the Chamber of Secrets for a cup of tea with his Fang servant, which is interesting. That's very, I guess, everybody has to assume that if it's Slytherin's monster, even though it's never mentioned, that it's probably snake-like. Just a hunch, maybe. But Ginny update, and she's like really like sad and upset, and every time Fred and like anytime they say any of this stuff, like it's upsetting her, basically. Let's see, I've been saying that I wanted to try and look for the differences between Fred and George. Let's see, they're mentioned together at the beginning of that paragraph. Oh, that's very funny. Oh, they were saying it together, I think. It doesn't say which one of them. And then Percy's the one that... I'm sorry, Fred's the one that tells Percy to get out of the way. Fred says... And this is the thing, they complete each other's sentences a lot. And so as a result of that, it really does make it hard to distinguish which one is which sometimes, even though but it's like, I don't know, it's odd. And so Fred is the one who asks Harry who he's planning to attack next, and George is the one that pretends to ward Harry off with a large clove of garlic. They're both antics. They're not really, like, either one of them could have done either one of those things. And for whatever reason, they're saying that they're seeing, like, when Malfoy sees them doing this, he seems to be getting more and more irritated or irritable about it. And Ron, of course, is convinced that the reason why is because he's dying to say that he's the heir of Slytherin. And they're like, well, he won't be getting away with it for much longer if that's the truth, because we're going to find out with the Polyjuice potion. And so, yeah, Hermione's like dead set on making this shit happen, which is interesting well, we'll see momentarily. Right, and so term ends, and everybody does leave, and a A silence as deep as the snow on the grounds descends on the castle. Um, but Harry finds it peaceful because, again, it's like he can just, he can just chill with his friends and extended family, basically, and just not have to worry about all the other bullshit or classes either. So it's like, got to be kind of amazing for him. And so they're hanging out and they're playing games and they're doing things and having fun in the Gryffindor common room because it's all theirs. And so, yeah, so they have a good night, whatever. And the next morning, Hermione wakes them up. And she's in the boys' dormitory, and Ron's all like, "You're not supposed to be in here." And as we'll find out later, it doesn't work the same if a boy goes into the girls' dormitories. But yeah, we'll get there. I don't think that's in this. I don't remember when the hell that is. I feel like it's later. Anyway, Anyway, so she gives them their presents, and they're, blah, 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 blah. And Hermione says that she's already been up for an hour finishing up the potion, adding the lace wings, or adding more of them, I should say. And so she says that it's ready. So they will do it that night, that very night, Christmas night. They agree. And then Hedwig comes in, and she's being nice to Harry again. Although I'm like, I can't remember why she's pissed right now. Like it's because I'm like been listening. I've listened to like 2 more books after this one. Like there are little things that Harry does to piss her off every so often. Let's see. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Somebody will say it in the comments, and I'll be like, "Yeah, I knew that. It's just not coming right now, and I don't feel like looking it up. It's not that important." Anyway, point being is that that everything is cool between Harry and Hedwig again. But of course, unfortunately, aside from being cool with Harry again, she's not bringing anything else good. It's the Dursleys, which they sent a toothpick, which is just like, basically, fuck you, is what that is. And a note asking him if he can find out if he can stay for the summer holidays at Hogwarts too. Even though I'm kind of thinking that deep down, Aunt Petunia probably knew that he couldn't, but maybe she doesn't know but she knows. She knows, I think. Anyway, so he gets other presents. They're better. Hagrid sent him treacle fudge. What else we got? Ron got him the Flying with the Cannons book about his favorite Quidditch team, the Chudley Cannons. Where the fuck is Chudley, y'all? Or what is it? Or where? Or what? Which I don't even know what the question is. Well, who explain? Jorge, explain. Somebody explain. And of course he gets the he gets a eagle feather quill from Hermione, and he also gets his now annual new sweater or jumper from Mrs. Weasley, along with a cake and a card, and he's getting that, and he's feeling guilty because of the crashing of the car. Oh, that's what Hedwig still would be pissed about, right? Because they crashed a fucking car with her in it. I think that's the thing. No, nothing major, just crashing into a tree that beats you up and could kill you. Anyway, so he's feeling guilty, not only about what he's done, but also about what he's getting ready to do with the Polyjuice potion that night. But regardless of that, they have a lovely Christmas dinner. And interestingly, it seems like the numbers right now in this situation are so low that they wouldn't have the house table set up and decorated and everything, like, because later in I think it's in the next book in Prisoner of Azkaban, that there's a Christmas dinner and there's not very many students there then, and they all dine at like one like big dining room table that's like the only table in the room or something, or at least it's the only one they're eating at, because there's so few students there, and so that seems like they could have done the same thing. I don't know. Anyway. But in this case, the Great Hall looks magnificent, like the way it normally does when there's like a moderate number of students there, which makes sense. But this time it doesn't really, to me. But whatever. He said Dumbledore led them through some of his favorite carols. Hagrid got drunk. Okay, so here's one. Percy, one of the twins, well, it turns out not just one, Fred, bewitched his prefect badge, Percy's, to say Pinhead, and Percy keeps asking him what's so funny. So we get that. Fred did that, not George. Which, Fred does seem like the ever so slightly more outgoing, like usually the first to speak. Or the one to like throw the first punchline out there or whatever. I don't know. We're continuing our analysis. And Malfoy's being a dick as usual, making comments about Harry's sweater. But anyway, so they're finishing up their desserts and such, and Hermione is like, all right, let's head out here and get this there plan together. And as it turns out, Hermione's already got the plan completely together, and if it wasn't for her, there's no way on earth that they could have pulled off any of what they're about to pull off. I mean, maybe if they had been tasked with it, but they didn't really, like, they had been skeptical all along, and Hermione's totally been driving this ship. So, anyway, so she's like, all right, listen, still need something from the people we're changing into. And she's like, and obviously it'll be best if you can get something of Crabbe and Goyle's, because they're Malfoy's friends. And also, she's like, oh, don't worry, I got this under control. Watch. And she's like, I got these 2 chocolate cakes. They got sleeping draft in them. We're going to put them out here. You're going to put them out here. You're going to wait for Crabbe and Goyle to find them and eat them. You're going to, once they fall asleep, you're going to pull some of their hairs and you're going to hide them in the broom closet. And then you're going to, and they're like, whoa, bro, what the fuck? Like, how on earth do you think that this is all going to work out? This could really... And she's like, just do what the fuck I say. Otherwise, we're not... This Polyjuice potion is completely useless without hair or something from them. And they're like, okay. I mean, well, all right. You thought it out, we didn't. It's scary, but all right. And they're like, what about you? And she's like, well, remember Millicent Bulstrode from the dueling club? Well, I got one of her hairs. Except, well, you'll see. So, and so Hermione heads off to go, like, tend to the potion, even though I don't really know or to check on it, I guess. I mean, it's supposed to be done, so there's really nothing to do but just kind of stir it some more or something. I don't know. And so they're like, holy shit, this is the craziest plan ever, but here we go. And so a little bit later, the first part goes actually quite smoothly. Crab and Goyle come out by themselves, see the cakes, eat them, and then like before they can take a few steps, they just like fall down, and so then Harry and Ron have to haul them across the hall. Which, by the way, like it's another reason why they had to have the school very almost empty, because like really, like the chances that nobody else is going to see this under normal circumstances are basically zero. Because there's always people coming in and out of the entrance hall, you know. But with the extremely reduced number of students, this is feasible. And so yeah. Anyway, so they do that thing, and they let's see. Oh, and they so they get their hairs for the potion, and then they also get their shoes, because they know that they realize anyway at that moment. I don't know if that was something Hermione told them too, but they realize that they need, you know, bigger shoes because their feet are going to be bigger once they transform into Crabbe and Goyle. So they come back into Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. They go in. Hermione comes out, and they get the potion and put it into the glasses, and they put the hairs in, and Hermione's like, oh, by the way, yeah, I got the larger robes too, so when you turn into larger people, you'll be able to fit into something. So it's like every little, she ties up the details pretty good here. I mean, Rowling, but of course Hermione also, but also with whatever. And Hermione's like, well, pretty positive that I did this right, so let's do it. So they put some into each of 3 glasses. I don't really know how they know what the dosages is. Maybe it's in the book. It's not mentioned if it's like ladled out or if it's just like dividing the entire stock of it into 3s. Maybe it's not really that much. In my mind, I imagined it being like kind of a largest cauldron, but it's probably not really that big. So maybe it really is just divided into 3. Like maybe the ingredients were, like the ratios were based on like number of servings or something like that. Anything's possible. Anyway, so Hermione puts her hair in, the stuff turns yellow, blah, blah, blah. So Harry goes with Goyle, and Ron goes with Crabbe, and there's a khaki and a dark murky brown, so they're both just kind of ugly colors, although they're probably hair colors, right? And that yellow is a big old no. Anyway, so right before they're about to like drink them, Harry's like, yo, let's switch up into like different. This is another one of those English American versions of English thing. They're called cubicles in England. We call them stalls, but anyway, so they go into separate ones. So that when Harry and Ron transform into Crabbe and Goyle, they wouldn't all fit inside of one. And as it's pointed out, Millicent Bulstrode's no pixie. And okay, so it bears mentioning here too, because Advive like often brings this up to me. Not often brings up to me, but has mentioned on occasion in the past in regards to this story, that almost all the fat people or overweight people in Harry Potter are bad people. And we have Dudley and Vernon Dursley, we have Crabbe and Goyle, and even to a degree Millicent Bulstrode here, with that whole she's no pixie line. I mean, and maybe she's just stocky, maybe she's not, but it's still implied that she's bigger. So there's a lot of truth to that. There's really only Slughorn's a very morally gray character, to say the least. I mean, I don't think he's bad. He's just not. Yeah, he's morally gray. He ends up making some brave choices, but he also makes some pretty cowardly ones, up to the point that he sort of like breaks through and like realizes when he's sort of faced with what he has to do. He makes some, he doesn't choose to flee with all the other Slytherins that do flee and things like that, and he fights on the right side. I'm sure that there are some other examples, but most of them are bad people, if not all. Well, not all, but most. Or I don't know. Anyway, point being is that it is a thing, and it ought not be a thing. There should be at least some counterbalance to that. Because I mean, I do, on the one hand, I get like the idea of displaying like excess or also like like a low key self-loathing or whatever in an overweight person or whatever, somebody who doesn't take care of themselves in a certain kind of way or whatever. But obviously that's not the only reason, or those aren't the only reasons that people end up carrying extra weight. And so yeah, it's there's bottom line is there's some fat shaming, and I don't know, well, not that it would excuse it, but I don't know like how those sort of things are portrayed exactly in England versus like America or whatever. But it seems that there's some commonalities, although it's surprising because it's not like she doesn't really go for shame very much, other than to show like people trying to shame people for things that aren't bad, like how Malfoy makes fun of Ron and the Weasleys for being poor, and tries to shame them, or Harry or for being friends with them, or and his parents being what they were, and things like that. But you don't. So it's different. Okay, fine. It's not a subject that I normally honestly think about, but not in that. Not in terms of Harry Potter anyway, but then like sometimes there's like situations that sort of just like throw it in your face. Like even Umbridge isn't exactly, she's not, but she's like, anyway, right. Right. Dun, 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 dun. And so, so they count to 3 and they do it. They drink the potions. And let's see. So it's all weird feeling, and there's a burning sensation, and he thinks he's going to be sick, but he doesn't. And then all the physical things start happening, like you start looking like bubbling hot wax. It sounds pretty amazing, in the gruesome kind of way. And then he sees his hands start to grow and his fingers thicken and all that stuff. So they get bigger and they turn into Crabbe and Goyle, and they come out of their stalls, and that's what happens. And they see each other and they're like, whoa, you look like that guy. And he's like, yeah, you look like that other guy. That's pretty cool. And they look in the mirror for a few minutes because they're just like, I mean, as you would. I'm being silly, but yeah, if you transformed into a completely different person, especially somebody that you've only seen but don't really know, it's really got to be creepy, and especially when they're a lot bigger than you too. So anyway, so they do the necessary wardrobe adjustments and glasses removal and things of that nature, and yeah, so they're there, and so they're kind of like so caught up in like their being Crabbe and Goyle that they like momentarily aren't thinking about Hermione, and they figure she's getting herself changed in her cubicle, and then they're once they're done gawking at each other and themselves, and they're like, hey, yo, we got to get going. We got an hour, and we're already like losing some time here. And Hermione's like, see, what had happened was you're gonna have to go without me. And they're like, it's okay. We know what Millicent Bulstrode looks like. You can come out. It's cool. And she's like, nope, that's cool, really. See you in a bit. And so they're like, huh. First of all, why was she talking like that? And second of all, okay, fine, we gotta go. And so they go, and they're like, because they're just like, they don't really know what to do, and their time is a factor, a major one. So they're like, well, we'll see you back here then, organizer of this plan who's no longer part of the plan. Damn it. Although she did get them through all the difficult parts, she did all the work. But then they are the ones that go and actually do the thing. It is interesting. Like what would this meeting have been like? Well, let's do the meeting first, and then I'll probably forget about it. But the thought in the back of your mind, be thinking, what would this upcoming meeting between Crabbe and Goyle, Ron and Harry and Ron, whichever one's which. Harry's Goyle, Ron is Crabbe. Yeah. Anyway, if because. And maybe this is the reason why they did this. I don't know, because there's two things about Millicent Bulstrode. One is that she was supposed to be gone, and so Hermione was already going to have to say, "Well, I just decided to come back for what reason?" I'm sure Hermione's clever. She probably could have come up with something. And I'm sure, yeah. I mean, whatever, she could have, but then the other thing is like, just because she's in Slytherin doesn't necessarily mean that like she's friends with Draco or Crabbe and Goyle as a result of that. And so it might be like weird, and like they might be like, why don't you go to your dormitory? And she'd be like, I don't know where that is. Okay, that's not, Hermione doesn't normally talk. The other voice was on purpose. We're not going to go down this road. But no, she could have just been like, like really stuck. And so it's interesting that the narrative decision here to have Harry and Ron be the ones that go do the thing, which, I mean, again, it's like the threes. We got the Slytherin 3 and the Gryffindor 3, and so it sort of works in a way. So anyway, so they're on their way, and they're like, we just got to find a Slytherin student to follow to their common room, because they don't know where it is. They've never been down there. And so they get to a place where they like know where the Slytherins come up from for breakfast, and they're like, they go up to a student and they're like, where's our common room? And they're like, I'm in Ravenclaw. It's not our common room. And so they're like, oh, right. So they just head off down into like the dungeon passageway, hoping that they'll run into somebody or see somebody. And they do, but it's not Slytherin. It's Percy. And Ron, like, forgetting who he is, because Ron's like, at least at this point in his life, is not really on top of being in disguise. It's not his forte. He likes to give himself away, apparently. And he's like, what are you doing down here? He's like, Percy's looking at Ron, and Percy's like, that's none of your business, Crabbe. And Ron's like, what? Oh, yeah, I'm Crabbe. That's who I am. Percy's like, fortunately, like, doesn't know enough about them to really know one way or the other. I don't know. He was probably just off with his girlfriend. So, filthy hypocrite. And Percy does, oh man, he's like, it's not safe to be wandering around dark corridors. And Ron, still forgetting again that he's not Ron right now, he's like, well, you are. And Percy's all like, me? I'm a prefect. Nothing's about to attack me. Which is like the most ridiculous thing in the world. Like, even if you are smart and like, nerdy and all of those things, and you decide you want to be a prefect or a head boy, there's nothing wrong with that. But the minute you start thinking that like a monster's not going to attack you because of your school status, Percy, man, come on, bro, back down to Earth, son. Come on. Anyway, but he really does say that nothing's about to attack me. Anyway, so they're there and like they hear a voice and it turns out to fucking be Malfoy. And for the first time in Harry's life, he's been happy to hear that voice because he's just been saved and he can get to the common room now. And this is the person that they want to talk to anyway. So Malfoy's mouths off to Percy and he's like, "You should show more respect to a prefect." Rah. Which is legit, but Percy's just, it's like, anyway. Right. So Malfoy motions for Harry and Ron, Crabbe and Goyle to follow him, or Goyle and Crabbe in that order. And Harry almost says something nice to Percy or apologetic, and he really catches himself. Harry's a little bit quicker on this whole being in disguise thing. And Malfoy calls Percy Peter, Weasley, and Ron again automatically corrects him, Percy. And Malfoy's like, whatever. But Malfoy also mentions that he's noticed Percy sneaking around a lot, which means that Percy's been hooking up with Penelope Clearwater a lot of late. Malfoy thinks that it's because he's trying to catch the heir of Slytherin, but he's really trying to catch a little something else, if you know what I mean. Hey! Oh, am I right? Okay. Right, so they get to the place where the common room entrance is, and Malfoy's like, "What was the password again?" "Oh, rare. Pure blood." Because, of course, it is. Like, fucking, okay. I'm like, who says that? Like, really? Oh, man. Indeed. So, we get a little description of the common room. It is just a low, long, underground room, because, of course, it's in the dungeons. And it has rough stone walls and ceiling. And there are round greenish lamps because color coordination, and they have a fire because they all do. And so Malfoy directs Harry and Ron to some chairs, and he's like, "I'll be right back. I got this thing. You want to see it? Trust me, you'll get a laugh." And what he brings back is a newspaper clipping, newspaper clipping, and it is entitled "Inquiry at the Ministry of Magic." And so we find out that Ron's dad has been charged and fined 50 galleons. For bewitching the car. And it mentions Lucius Malfoy, who is still at this point a governor of member of the board of governors of the school, called for Mr. Weasley's resignation. And he says that he's brought the ministry into disrepute. Anyway. In the movies, if I'm not mistaken, they make it seem like Malfoy works at the ministry too, but in the books he doesn't. He's a school governor, and what else he actually does other than probably spend his ancestors' money is and pretend to not be a dark wizard, and a coward for that matter. Yeah, anyway, I'm not really sure what maybe those are the things that he does. Right. So anyway, and they're like, and Malfoy's putting Lucius is in quoting in his quote putting down the ridiculous Muggle Protection Act and saying it should be stopped. And apparently, Mr. Weasley wasn't available for comment, but of course, some reporters approached the Burrow apparently, and Mrs. Weasley told them to clear off, or she'd set the family ghoul on them, which. See, this is one like area I really wish that Rowling had thought of Rita Skeeter like from the outset, because these articles would have been better if they'd been written by her to sort of plant the seed of who she was, instead of her just appearing as a character and like all of a sudden all the offensive articles are written by her, but they try to act like she's been writing bad stuff for ages. And she's just only now being mentioned by name by the characters. And that's is that in Prisoner of Azkaban? No, that's in Goblet of Fire. That she shows up first, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, but it's like in a way, like if this article were written by Rita Skeeter, then like the part about the Mrs. Weasley setting the family ghoul could have been something she just knew about and like, invented for this, thing, because it does sort of strain credulity that like reporters would just be like within the bounds of the. I mean, maybe the Burrow's not that well protected at this point in the story, but whatever. Some questions are just interesting to think about for a moment and then to abandon and move on to other things. So yeah, and Malfoy's like, well, and that's how he's like, and they're like, he's like, don't you think it's funny? And they're like, ha ha ha, because they're both at this point sucking at being disguised. Especially Ron, he's just like, what the fuck? Because it's his dad, he was already not doing a great job, and this is like really traumatic to read. So Malfoy's going on about Ron's dad, how he should snap his wand in half and go join the Muggles because he loves them so much. If you love him so much, and he's like, you'd never know the Weasleys were pureblood. And Ron's like looking like daggers at Malfoy, even though he's Crab. And Malfoy's like, what the fuck? And he's like, stomachache. Which, granted, how much they ate wouldn't actually be far-fetched. And Malfoy's like, well, yeah, go up to the hospital wing then and give the Mudbloods a kick from me. Which is pretty shitty. And so Malfoy's like, I wonder why they haven't reported any of the attacks. I guess Dumbledore's keeping it hushed. And Malfoy repeats his one of his favorite things to say, that his father thinks Dumbledore is the worst thing that's ever happened to Hogwarts. Blah, blah, blah. Muggleborns. Blah, 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 blah. No decent headmaster. Blah, blah, blah. Colin Creevey. Make fun of Colin Creevey with a good impression of his voice. And Harry and Ron are both just sort of sitting there. And Malfoy's like, what the fuck, guys? Like, usually you laugh at my lame shit. And they're like, ha, 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 ha. And Malfoy is actually, like, okay with that. And then Harry's like, damn, they must be always slow. And so then Malfoy gets into his rant about Harry, and he calls him Saint Potter. Blah blah blah. No proper wizarding feeling has Harry. Blah blah blah. Hermione Granger Mudblood. Ha ha ha. Everybody thinks he's Slytherin's heir, and they're like, here he goes. He's about to say it. And Malfoy's like, wonder who it is. And they're like, Because they were like so sure, especially Ron, and so they're like, huh. And Ron's looking like, what? But unfortunately, Malfoy wasn't noticing, and Harry like finally like gets some his wits about him, and it's like, well, you must have some idea who it is, and Malfoy's like, I don't. You've asked me before, blah blah blah, and of course he doesn't seem to think there's anything odd about that either, that they forgot. And he says he actually admits that his father won't tell them anything about the previous time that it was open 50 years ago, and he does say that it was before his time, so that makes sense. Because I was thinking before, I was like, 50 years seems a little too far back for Lucius, and so it was. But what Draco does know is that the last time this happened, a mudblood, as he says, a Muggleborn, died. And this time he's like, I hope it happens again, and I hope it's Granger. And Ron's like, again, forgetting that he's Crabbe. And he's like, and it's funny too, because if Ron actually lost control, he could beat the living shit out of Malfoy in Crabbe's body. It'd be like being a transformer or something. Um, anyway, and Harry's like still, trying to keep things under control. He like gives Ron like a warning look, and he's like, so do you know if the person who did it last time was caught? And Harry and Malfoy's like, oh yeah, they were expelled. Probably still in Azkaban. And this is actually the first time in the books that the word Azkaban is used, and so Harry is like, Azkaban, in Goyle's stupefied voice, and Malfoy's like, Azkaban, the wizard prison, Goyle. And he's like, and you do get like another sense that maybe they really are that dumb, because he's like, honestly, if you were any slower, you'd be going backwards. Get some great Malfoy quotes in this chapter. Anyway, so yeah, Malfoy is like, Dad wants me to keep my head down, let this shit just, let everything just play out. And he lets slip, well, not let slip because he doesn't know, but he tells them that the Ministry like raided their manor, not their house, but their manor last week, and but he's like, yeah, they didn't find much because all of our stuff is in the hidden secret chamber under the drawing room floor. And Ron's like, ha 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 ha. Oh, I'm not supposed to be Ron. And Harry's like, ah. And then Harry looks over and Ron's blushing, and then, oh wait, his hair's turning red, and oh, they're transforming right in front of Malfoy, but somehow Malfoy doesn't see, and they both are like, oh, we gotta go, headache, stomach ache, medicine stuff, hospital wing, peace. And Malfoy doesn't seem to notice anything, and so that's miraculous. And so they haul ass, and they pass by the broom cupboard where they hear Crabbe and Goyle trying to get out. How they're locked in exactly, I'm not sure. Maybe there was just a random key on the outside. I don't know. Anyway, they drop their overlarge shoes outside, which is nice. They give them their shoes back. I would think that as big as they are, not just being overweight, but they're tall and muscular too. They're kind of like everything big, it seems. That they could probably, if they wanted, like both shoulder it and get that door to crack open. So I don't know, maybe that, or maybe a teacher like comes by. You never really, that's one. Not that it's really a loose end. I mean, obviously they're not hurt or anything. But we never really hear anything about like them getting out of there, how they got out or whatever. But anyway, so they do that stuff, and they sprint back up to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom again, which they're able to do without really worrying about anybody seeing them because there's nobody there. And so, but Ron is pretty happy because he's like, I can write to Dad and tell him to go search under the Malfoy's drawing room and sort of get. Even though it's not just about getting him back, it's definitely about getting him back for being a dick, and like, speaking out against him and everything. So it's kind of cool actually that Ron's able to do that for his dad, because, of course, I'm pretty sure they do follow up on this tip, but like it has to be one of those things where Mr. Weasley's like, how the fuck did you hear that, son? But whatever. Anyway. And so by the time they get to the mirrors, they can, they see that they're back to their normal selves. And so they're like, Hermione, got lots of stuff to tell you. And she's like, go away, not here. And they're like, okay, she's using that voice again. And secondly, what the fuck, Hermione? And she's like, no, really, go away. And then moaning Myrtle slides out. And she's like, ooh, wait till you see. It's awful. And so, yeah. I'm sorry, I don't normally quote as much, but there's just so many good little silly lines in this chapter. And so with that, Hermione's like, well, fine. If you're going to say that to him, I guess I'll come out. So she comes out, and she has her robes up over her face. And anyway, so she finally lets down the robes, and Ron like backs away into the sink, and she has basically a black cat face. When we find out that it was a cat hair, and that the Polyjuice potion is intended for human transformations only, not animals. And Ron's like, oh my god. And Moaning Myrtle's like, you'll be teased something dreadful. And Myrtle is, we're almost done with the chapter, but I'll just say, like, she's an interesting character because she died at, like, in a dramatic way at a, like, pseudo-dramatic point in her life because she was a teenager. And you don't know anything else about her. You don't know what her home life was like, but, like, her whole, like, ghost life is sort of, like, dedicated to, like, or was at one point dedicated to, like, revenge upon the people that made fun of her. But then it's like after that, she's just sort of like always sort of like that petty teen or preteen that she is, like early teen or preteen, whatever she is. I forgot. They say how old she is the first time she's introduced. Probably like 13 is what I'm thinking, but I don't know. Maybe a little younger. But she's I don't know. It's like she. It just, I don't know, you just kind of wonder, like, what was Myrtle's home life like that she was that miserable at school? Or was it just because she happened to be the geeky girl and she probably had a perfectly okay home life? But she chose. We learn later that they choose, and maybe that wasn't decided yet, but people choose to come back as ghosts when they could go, as Dumbledore says, on. Other people say it too, it's not just Dumbledore, actually. Right. So anyway, so right now, Moaning Myrtle is just having a blast, like picking on Hermione. And so eventually Harry like convinces her, like, listen, Madame Pomfrey's not going to ask too many questions. We just need to go up to the hospital wing. And so they eventually do. It takes a while, and then Myrtle has the last laugh and line. Wait till everyone finds out you've got a tail. Which is, I mean, that's pretty humiliating. But then again, like, if she's in the hospital wing the whole time, which she ends up being, probably no one knew that she had a tail. And so, yeah, that is that. And we are rolling on. I can't tell you. I make no promises, but I'm kind of on a roll, and we'll just see how long it lasts. I'm enjoying it, and I have the time, and I'm back in the Potter spirit, y'all. I am. I'm not really crying. So, yeah, that is, I mean, is there, let's see, so do we recap? Oh, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do something real quick. We're going to, look at previous comments. I'm going to take Adva's suggestion. I am going to go back to previous videos, like the last one or two, and look at any things that were answered. Yes, Fabian, is that how you fucking say your name? God, it's not Fabian. I just know it's not. It can't be. That's so American. Anyway, he reminded me that the reason why Percy was so happy coming out of the library the day after the first attack was his girlfriend, Penelope Clearwater, which we actually get a lot more hint about in the chapter that we just did, as I was talking about. So, yes, and thank you. Judy Rose, who I don't know if you're part of the Schwifty Squad on Facebook and have a different name, so if that's the case and I'm supposed to know, I apologize. But you mentioned that Millicent, because I had said in the last chapter that we only hear about her in this one spot, but you reminded me that Millicent Bulstrode was part of Umbridge's inquisitorial squad, I believe is what they call it, in Order of the Phoenix. And so that's good, thank you, because I totally forgot that. Let's see. And then you also brought up another point that Justin Finch Fletchley seems to, or maybe you said disappears, and maybe, like I said, maybe Judy, you have already done this research and you're certain about this. I don't doubt it. But anyway, that Justin disappears after this book, and obviously he doesn't get killed or anything. Spoiler alert, but yeah. So that's interesting, because she usually does a pretty good job of like bringing people back around that get mentioned. Not everybody, but most characters. Let's see here. Some Isildur said that they're starting to like this new upload schedule, and you know, like I said, I'm gonna do my best to keep it coming, but we'll see how that goes. And then let's look back at the one before that too, just to see if there's anything, because I think before that it kind of would, like, we already covered stuff. Yes, Jessica Min mentioned that she hadn't thought about the Colin foreshadowing before, and I don't know if that's what Rowling was actually thinking or not. Oh, you know what I'm gonna do? Because, oh wow, I'm gonna do one of those things that like the real YouTubers do. I'm going to, in the comments, I'm going to link to the Daniel Radcliffe, J.K. Rowling interview thing, because it showed up in my sidebar while I'm checking these comments. So I'm gonna like link in the description, bro. Yeah. Mandy reminded me that Hermione hitting Draco is in Prisoner of Azkaban. And J-Min also asked, first she mentioned something that she asked, how did Colin have time to get the camera in front of him before he was attacked by the basilisk? And I did reply, but I'll just put it here since not everybody's going to go back and read those comments. And I, honestly, in answering the question, I said something that I don't think I'd ever actually thought before, but like it feels right after I said it. Sometimes you just, in answering a question, you like sort of like come up with something that you maybe knew but didn't think about. Anyway, whatever. You kind of almost get the sense that maybe Colin Creevey was on his way to becoming a bit of a photojournalist, maybe even a unique of his kind, because he's so obsessed with it, even though he's in the wizarding world. And so, like, anyway, my point is that he's the kind of person that maybe would be walking around in the hallways just with his camera, like, already in his hand, ready to, like, capture something, because he seems to be very click happy. And it's not, I mean, he is enamored by things, but he also, like, I mean, he's clearly documenting, you know? So anyway, my point is that, like, if he heard something in the corridor ahead of him, he may have just automatically thrown the camera up to his face, preparing to capture something on film, or it might have just been like a defensive maneuver because he did have it already in his hand and he just threw his hands up and there's the camera was. I don't know. You know, it has to. I mean, point being is that it obviously is plot convenient, but it also, like, has feasibility at least. So there's that. In fact, it like it justifies all of those clicks that happen prior to this point. And there's a bunch, actually, if you think about it. But anyway, so yeah, that's that stuff. As far as the chapter itself that we just did, is there anything else? Right, we get the Sorting Hat thing. That happened. So Harry, like, is left with that, like, ugh feeling of, like, oh, you could have put me in Slytherin. And we find out that Draco's not the heir of Slytherin, and that Hermione, and then the Polyjuice potion is for humans only, and Hermione is a black cat right now, which I hadn't ever said in that exact phrase before, but that's interesting. Don't cross her path. Okay. I wonder if that was probably not thought of, like, making her a black cat, like to make it, because I mean, you don't want to cross her, like, as Skeeter will learn, to her disadvantage, to her regret. Yeah, so those are the things that happened, and those are that, and that is that. Have a lovely whatever you are currently living, day, night, morning, evening, or afternoon, and we'll see you next time. Peace.